Very good afternoon, madams and sirs. Myself, Birendra Kumar Singh, working as Director in the Ministry of Education, today feel greatly privileged and honored to welcome all the speakers and delegates who have come to participate in the discussion on the topic equitable and inclusive education, issues of socio-economically disadvantaged groups. On the occasion of 2nd Akhil Bharatiya Shiksha Samagam, observing the 3rd anniversary of a National Education Policy 2020, the present session is focused on addressing the ultimate goal of NEP, which is increasing the gross enrollment ratio at both the school and higher education levels and bringing it at par with the developed countries in the world. To achieve this, it is important for our education system to become equitable and inclusive. Our distinguished panel today will address some of the prominent hurdles and discuss workable solutions for them. With the permission of Chair, I would like to introduce the distinguished and eminent personalities who are going to address the session to throw a pen for discussion. The chairman of the panel today is Sri Saurabh Garg sir. Please welcome him. Sir has worked on areas such as digitalizing agriculture, direct income transfer scheme for farmers, formation of the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, improving the foreign direct investment policies, preparing the framework for digital payments, revamping of the gold sector policies, and has led negotiation for the bilateral investment treaties. He has done PhD from Johns Hopkins University and is alumnus of the IIM, Ahmedabad and IIT Delhi. He belongs to the Indian Administrative Service and presently he is Secretary, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Our next panelist is Professor Kattimani. Welcome, Professor Kattimani Sahab. Sir has gained immense recognition throughout India as an educationist, creative writer and translator. He is currently serving as the first Vice Chancellor of Central Tribal University of Andhra Pradesh. He is the President Board of Governors of G.V. Pant Social Science Institute, Prayagraj, and member of High Power Committee for Content Display in New Parliament Building. He is the recipient of Honorary Causa of Kuvempu University, Shimoga, and also awarded with Karnataka Rajyotsav Award. Our next speaker on the panel is Sri Srijan Pal Singh. Well, please welcome Sri Srijan Pal Singh. He is a gold medalist from IIM Ahmedabad and served as the former advisor to the 11th President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He has worked on cutting edge and futuristic technology and is a best-selling technology author who has been featured in various prestigious newspapers. He is the founder and CEO of the world's first future learning lab, Homi Lab, and is also the mentor to Dr. Kalam Center, which works in developing technology for social goods across universities. Our next speaker is Sri B. Karthikeya. Please welcome. Sri Karthikeya, sir. He is a state project director of Samagra Shiksha in Bihar. He is an IAS officer of 2008 batch from Bihar cadre. He has served in various important positions in the state as well as central government. Our next speaker, Ms. Cynthia McFray. Please help her welcome. She is a representative of the UNICEF India country office since October 2022, leading UNICEF's programmatic and operational planning, implementation, and management in India. She holds a master's degree in public policy from University of Texas. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Rino Sonowal, Madam, Joint Secretary in Ministry of Education, for presenting the memento to all our panelists before starting the session.
Open it. No, you don't need this, no? I think you'll have to give it open, no? एक एक करके दे दो आप खोल के दे देते हैं ना या आ जाओ ना कम नो
Ladies and gentlemen, now I invite the Honorable Chairman to initiate the discussion. Chairman, sir, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My esteemed panelists, it's a pleasure to have such eminent persons as panelists in this session on equitable and inclusive education issues of socio-economically disadvantaged groups. I think in the morning we had an excellent introduction to the new education policy by the Honorable Minister for Education, Skill Development, and of course from the Honorable Prime Minister, who gave an overview of what is hoped to be achieved over the next 25 years. I'm sure a lot of work has already been done since NEP started in 2020, and let us see how we can ensure that the socially and economically disadvantaged groups can also benefit from the new education policy. I think all of us recognize that it requires a lot of collective action and concerted efforts of everyone to achieve what is desired. And the NEP celebrates diversity. It has a belief that every person can add value, and all need to be treated with dignity. I'm sure the panelists would be talking about what has already been done and what can be done, and perhaps what is internationally also being done in this area. The SDG 4 also recognizes the fact that lifelong learning is integral, and I think that would be especially relevant for the socially and educationally disadvantaged. Social inclusion is something which is very high up on the agenda for the new India, which the Honorable Prime Minister also mentioned that by 2047 we hope to be in the ranks of developed nations. And education is perhaps one of the most important tools of social change, and how we can leverage that further is something we would be looking forward to discussing over the next 90 minutes or so. I'm not getting into the issues around the SCDGs because I'm sure all of you have seen that excellent paper that has been circulated, prepared by the Ministry of Education, and I must compliment them for preparing such an excellent background paper. But whether it's inequality of distribution, whether it's the disparities in opportunities, whether it's underrepresentation, whether it's social stigmas, whether it's geographical remoteness, all these factors, I think, contribute towards the socioeconomically disadvantaged groups being where they are. And this is what we would need to address as we go forward. The paper also mentioned about the fact that the gross enrollment ratio of 50% by 2035 and 75% by 2047 is what is envisaged. And if we just look at two of these social economic disadvantaged groups, the scheduled caste have a GER of around 23% right now, and the scheduled tribes are at about 17.2%. So there is considerable gap that we have, and there are other groups that I have not mentioned, whether it's migrant communities or children in vulnerable situations, etc. Some of the efforts that have also been discussed is regarding the use of Indian languages. I think the Prime Minister also mentioned that. Digital technologies, how they can be used And I think the NEP focuses a lot more on how to ensure that technology aids education as we go forward. Things like bridge courses has been discussed. And what is perhaps especially relevant for the socially disadvantaged is also the concept of having student service centers and equal opportunity cells in the universities, which will do a kind of mentoring, handholding. And I think that, I'm sure there are examples of that already. Awareness is, I think, one area where we perhaps would need to focus, and maybe let's see what has also been done. And equally important is ensuring all the stakeholders, whether it's the principals and teachers, administrators, whether it's the involvement of the communities who are from where the children come, and of course parental involvement in ensuring that there's a nurturing learning environment at home. These are just some issues I thought I'll just mention in the opening remarks, and I must thank all of you who are here today. It shows your interest in this sector, and let us see how we can identify some innovative solutions, policy interventions, and best practices to achieve what we hope to achieve over the next few years, and of course over the next 25 years. Look forward to hearing interesting experiences and suggestions. The way we have structured the session is that each of the panelists would speak for about 5 to 7 minutes each. And then we would have around 20 to 30 minutes for discussion, since I'm sure all of you are people who have worked in this area. You would have some interesting questions. We will take that up and then try and sum it up. With this, thank you all for coming, and let's collaborate and build an education system that embraces diversity, fosters inclusivity, and empowers every learner to reach their fullest potential. Thank you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Professor T.V. Katamani, sir. He is the Vice Chancellor for the Central Tribal University, Andhra Pradesh. Please welcome, sir. Thank you.
Namaskar. Happy to participate in the program, because since 5 years I am every day living with NEP 2020. Chair of our session, Dr. Saurabh Gargji, Secretary, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. I will tell you how social justice and empowerment has made a big change in the Indian scenario. Sri Srijan Pal Singh, founder, Kalam Foundation. Sri B. Karthikeji, Dr. State Project Director. Madam Cynthia McFerry, my friends, colleagues. It's a great pleasure. NEP, especially equity and inclusiveness in Indian education. What education can make a change? How education can make a revolution? To prove this, I am a live example in front of you. I am a tribe born in a agricultural labor family first person to see the face of the school. Now I am Vice Chancellor. It's only because of education. Days were there, we never thought of to get quality education. There were our dream to get education, that's it. We should know AIE. Now NEP talks about quality education. Quality education to disadvantaged groups, communities, people, and tribes, and women, transgenders. Why NEP is talking about more focus on these people? Because they were excluded. Why they were excluded? Who has excluded? That is not important. They were excluded. Now through national education policy, new arena of education, we have to bring them into the fold of quality education. Quality education, why quality education for these people? Quality education to know themselves what we are, how we can contribute to the society, how we can make India, how we can make my society, how I can make my tribal community. So at the same time, I wrote my one book on NEP 2020, The Game Changer, where I dealt with 100 important questions about people used to ask. It is NEP is against SC, STs, minorities, OBCs, women, transgender, their hostel facilities, their fellowship facilities, foreign trip facilities, PhD facilities, food facilities. It is not there. NEP never talks about reservation. NEP talks about equal opportunity to everybody. I enjoyed. I learnt education. I have been educated only because of SC/ST hostels. If SC/ST hostels were not there, it's not possible to come up like all of us from village, from tribal area, from where school were not there. So, SCs and STs that also PVTGs, particularly vulnerable tribal groups. A Baiga tribe is there in Madhya Pradesh, in central India. Savara is there in Odisha and my state now, Andhra Pradesh, where we need to give them special assistance to help them to learn, to help them to know the importance of education. And at the same time, there are some communities, they were excluded from SC/ST list. They are excluded from, for example, denotified tribes. It is there in Maharashtra. Before 77, my tribe was a denotified tribe. Earlier, British people notified them as criminal tribes. After independence, after 2 years, 49, Nehru government notified they are DNTs, denotified. And nomadic tribes also, denomadic tribes also. My special area is nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes. They never stay a single place 1 week or 2 weeks, more than that. Then what about the education of their children? So a group of people, luckily I was part of that, suggested the government of Maharashtra and Karnataka that school can, travel along with these tribal people, nomadic tribes, semi-nomadic tribes. And it is fantastic work done by Maharashtra government since 10 years, schools are moving along with us. NEP talks about these people. NEP at the same time, why talks about increasing dropouts of SC, ST women, nomadic women or general women also. What measures should be taken? NEP talks about that. Gross enrollment ratio should, how it should from 27% to 50% it should go. The reasons NEP is talking about, the cost of pursuing higher education is high. Sorry, I left. All right, no issue. I forgot to use. Social apartheid, geographical and linguistic barriers. NEP talks about linguistic barrier of primary education, pre-primary education. You know, I learnt my education up to completion of degree in my mother tongue, Kannada. So, because of that, even at the age of 68, I can work. I can work in field. I can fetch water. Many people from rural area, we have diversified talent. Why? Because everything we learned through our own mother tongue. English, maybe after some time, English may be useful for us. Poor employability in higher educational programs. Why? You know, after BA 2, BCom 2, or BSc first year, or MA first year, the student who is pursuing Hindi, who is pursuing Kannada, who is pursuing Marathi, they leave the course because they came to know that there is no question of employability. And at the same time, lack of student support mechanism. Now, thanks to our Honorable Prime Minister and as well as NEP, now we have started, creating student support mechanism. Increasing numbers of SEDG suicides in premier institutions. Now, because of NEP, we are able to understand why increasing dropout rate is here. SCST who have admitted to IIT, IIM has dropped out their course. Now it is a big debate is going on. And suicides also happen. According to my study and my reasoning, it is, yes, it is because of my reasoning and study is that, see, the students from these communities, they have come up with the mother tongue education and very limited social background. Once they reach in the big space of IITs, IIMs or central universities, they will be under great surprise. I wrote my Amarkantak experiences in my mother tongue Kannada. Now it has been translated into Hindi. The title is Jangli Kulapati Ki Katha. There, tribes who are very happy to fight with tiger, they will be very much scared of higher educational institutional situation. Why? It is only because of teachers are very wild. No. Because this environment is totally new for them. It is a foreign for them. We have to teach them, we have to tell them it is your university. And at the same time, then only their confidence level will come out. And gender inclusiveness, empowering Divyangas, inclusion of LGBTQ. First time, thanks to the government as well as the PM, when he started talking about Divyangas, now we came to know, we crossed Divyangas and we are in the process of LGBTQ and definition of L, definition of G, definition of Q, T, and we are all aware of. Not only that, we have started appointing the people from LGBTQ in teaching positions, non-teaching positions. Even we started promoting them to enter into our labs, enter into our libraries. Religious minorities, linguistic minorities, promoting SEDGs, SC, ST, PBTs is like that. NEP developed strategies of empowering women through education. Here I would like to emphasize, NEP talks about STEM education. Why in STEM education, women are far behind? In STEM education, why tribes are tribes, SCs, minorities, linguistic minorities, and LGBTQ people, why they are unable to enter into the higher level? So NEP, suggested that special schools, Kasturba model schools, residential schools for girls, residential schools for LGBT people, and tribal students definitely will help. Provisions of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Avasiya Vidyalayas and hostels, like that Rani Lakshmibai, Atmaraksha Prashikshan, Swami Vivekananda Single Girl Child Fellowship for Research in Social Science. They are all already started, we have started practicing. Meanwhile, about SC, ST, OBC and ladies, this, that, I have a small story of half minute. Our education system will push monkey to swim in the water. And at the same time, we always push the fish to climb the tree. Monkey is very happy to climb the tree. Tribes are very happy to talk about ethnobotany. They are very happy to talk about ethnomedicines, their own practices. But our education system demands, do you know English? Do you know modern mathematics? Do you know chemistry? They will ask, sir, I don't know. But while asking in a jungle, the boy said, I created a story. I started, as a vice chancellor, I started asking questions to a boy. Do you know all these things? Then a roaring awaz, voice of a tiger. Then the boy said, कुलपति साहब, मैं गणित नहीं जानता, लेकिन आप पेड़ चढ़ना जानते हैं? Do you know how to climb the tree? I said, no. Then your life gone. Your life gone. Life skills, first time NEP talks about life skills. Culinary art is part of education. Yoga is part of education. Sports is part of education. Do you know, without any proper central or state government support, tribes of India are extremely doing well in international sports, international gym. With the support of this dais, I would like to request the Honorable Secretary, while sending outcome of this session, a central sports university should be opened in this country, especially maybe in Jharkhand or in Odisha, because Jharkhand people and Odisha people are number one in sports now, and luckily all girls and boys are, tribal girls and tribal boys and girls. I think my time is, yes, I am going to complete, sir. Tribes and these marginalized communities, they have their own skills along with them. The modern skills, we need to know modern skills, but we should not forget our own skills also. Our own skills, weaving skills, tribes make their own weaving skills, they prepare own their hunting, they prepare fishing, they prepare cultivation, they know carpentry, they know blacksmithery, everything they make. Then these skills, how they can be enhanced. Education should give them education, how to enhance our own skills, how to market. The marginalized people knows everything, but they doesn't know how to market it, how to talk about own productivity, local pay vocal, thanks to Modi ji again, that we should give them proper skills of ICT, skills of little English communication and selling skills. Then definitely, as we are all talking about, we are all dreaming about, one day India will become makers asylum with the help of marginalized people. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kattimani, for your interesting experiences. And I'll now request Srijan Pal Singh to give his presentation. My only request is if you can just keep in view the time so that to allow, since we have a large audience, to allow them also to speak and ask questions.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I greet the chair of today's panel, Shri Saurav Gargji, who's also my senior from IIM Ahmedabad. I just got to know about it, so it's fantastic to be with you here, sir. Professor T.V. Kattimani, Ms. Cynthia, and Shri Karthike. I greet them all, and I greet all of you at this very important conference on a very important subject, because often we talk about, when you talk about education, we stick to the top, the top 1%, the top 2%, the IITs, the AIMS, and we forget that India resides in its villages, its tribes, its forests, and its marginalized communities. Today I will not dwell too much about the challenges which we face. I will just touch about it, because I want to talk to you about this solution for which, a humble solution which we are working with. And perhaps since my topic which was given to me was on technology being a bridge where the haves and the have-nots could be connected, we will try to stick to that. But I wanted to pick a leaf from where Professor left us that story about the monkey trying to swim and the fish trying to climb a tree. In 2012, Dr. Kalam, he said that, and I was working with him. I lived in the same house from 2009 to 2015, the very last year of his life, and I worked as an advisor, and mostly my work was in education and policy. And he said that the last decade of his life, after the presidency, he wanted to devote to be a good teacher. So it's a testimony to all the teachers that the person who was the missile man, the smile man, the space man, the nuclear person, the president, decided that the last decade of his life he wanted to be remembered as a teacher. And that's the power of a teacher. And he embarked on a mission to figure out what are the major challenges and opportunities of India's education sector. And this is before NEP started happening. And in 2012-13, we set out. And if I could just summarize in 3 points or 4 points, what were the critical challenges which we identified, and then put it together as a book called Advantage India, which is also Dr. Kalam's last book. It is a co-authored book, which Dr. Kalam and we wrote together. And the critical areas were, if I could just summarize, education in India works, especially at school level, it works on something called maximizing averages. How does a child stand first in class? If the sum of all marks are maximum, are higher than any other student, the child stands first in class. So our assessment of finding who's the excellent child in a class is based on who's the best at averages. Life is not that. Life is about excelling at one good thing in life. And I think that assessment criteria itself, as Dr. Kalam and we co-authored that book, that has to change. I think Ramanujam was bad at everything but mathematics. C.V. Raman was bad at everything but science. So maybe we need to identify where the sparks are there rather than trying to maximize averages. The second thing was about education being futuristic. So education is like trying to hit a bird which is flying. You don't aim for the bird, you aim for where it will be. So a child is going to go out in the professional world in 10 years, cannot be taught about skills derived from 50 years back in time. So how do we make education futuristic? And that's a part of the solution which we will bring about. And the third thing was India went through a process of Macaulayism of education, where in the 19th century, a person called Macaulay was sent by the British to basically revamp our education, and in that name, basically bring down the value of traditional knowledge which we hold. I think in the present government, especially, the emphasis on creating the importance of traditional wealth of experiential learning which we have gathered over centuries is something of great importance. And this could be life skills, it could be values, it could be science, it could be many other things. With that, let me bring my presentation. This is the slider. Let's see. Okay, it works. So, just to introduce Dr. Kalam Center or Kalam Foundation, we started this with Dr. Kalam and I. We co-founded this in 2012, and our quest is to take the missions which Dr. Kalam wanted to take up, and he passed away. One of them was Kalam Library. We operate the world's largest free library network by a private sector, which is 460 libraries across India. We deploy about 1,200 teachers on an annual basis to teach the subject of futurism in most underprivileged segments of society. This is mostly in South India. We mentor across 750 schools. They're all government schools. Some of them are also children observatories where children who have committed some errors are kept. And we also operate a huge NGO, which is the largest on social media, about 2.3 million followers. Not to dwell into that, this is again, I'll skip through this slide. Basically, it shows that the poorest in India spend about 7.5, and this is 2019, so you can inflation adjust it. The rural poorest 5% spend about 7.54 rupees per month per capita on education, while the richest 5% in urban area spend almost 1,000 rupees. So there's a huge divide. When you talk about education, the capability in terms of what a student can afford or what parents can afford is very diverse. Which talks about, again, internet usage we talk about a lot. Internet usage is again, a gender division is there. Men are far more accessible or find internet more accessible than women do. That's pretty standard across India. 54% of urban, as I told you, and 32% of rural population has internet. So assuming that everything, you can run an app which requires constant internet may be a wrong assumption when you talk about the socially marginalized community. And of course, COVID saw a drop in the number of schools themselves. About 60,000 schools were put out of circulation during the COVID times. Digital divide, factors which are contributing to the digital divide are, or rather the divide, educational divide, are economic disparity, geographical challenges, gender and caste, technological awareness, and language barrier is very important. NEP has been talking about bridging language barriers and teaching children in languages which they are most comfortable in. I think that's a brilliant thing to do, but I think technology can be a huge role, it can play a huge role in doing that. I'll show you. Education technology, now I'm coming to the main thrust of the topic. Education technology, is it something which is going to be a transformational activity? Well, in terms of market size, India will be the second largest market for EdTech, which is going to grow to about, the K-12 sector market itself will go to about $2.7 billion. K-12 is your school education market. The online learners, a lot of people said after COVID, online learning would not be something which people will be using anymore. Data seems to suggest otherwise. The total number of registered learners from 2019 to 2021, that's the data point I had, has grown from 44 million to 92 million and has not gone down after the schools have reopened or the institutions have reopened. It is still going on. It's become a trend. It's become a part of lifestyle, educational lifestyle of India to learn from digital resources. The total number of enrollments, as in one person can enroll multiple courses, is now almost, in 2021 was about 200 million, and this has probably gone up to 300 million or so. Education technology, now this is an important slide to understand from what can EdTech or technology in general help with, and especially we'll come to the marginalized segment as a subset of it. Theoretical foundations, things like say a Baiju, which talks about courses taught by different teachers in different ways with different media. Vocational skills is something which is an upcoming sector, which also includes things like music, which can be taught. Beyond classroom learning, we'll talk about this. Things like sports, for instance, there are a lot of online academies for that. Competitive exam is a huge segment, things like Unacademy and so on. The last two are the ones which we have been trying to explore, which are laboratories of discovery. So I'll come to the laboratory part and I'll show you something. Actually, the bulk of the thing would be that. An immersive environment where we can inject a child into a particular scenario and they can experience it firsthand. And it's a mix of theory plus practical on an immersive platform. I'll like to show you that once we go through this. The key challenges which we need to focus on are in terms of device quality and access. We assume that everybody will have an i7 or an i5 system. People don't have it. Most people do not have a very smartphone. They have a smartphone, but not a really smartphone. So, or even a featured plus phone, you know. So that's a device impediment which often makes the economically weaker section not be able to reap the benefits of digital technology. Cost is an issue. There are online platforms where courses can cost upwards of 100,000 rupees for school children, which is unaffordable, beyond unaffordable. Language is an issue. Most of the content is in English, and in an English which many children at the level we are talking about may not be able to follow or understand. Quality of content, the moment you look at the low-cost content, the quality goes down, the factual errors come in, it becomes a very YouTube-level content, which is factually unverified and so on. And then the assumption that there'll be constant internet and power supply is something which is again a very urban assumption. Constant internet sometimes doesn't even work in Delhi, so let alone in a small village. So how are we bridging it? Well, these are the things which we focus on. 97% of schools lack functional laboratories. This is Times of India 2022. So 97 is nearly all. So 93% lack, so 7% work, 93% do not. Functional lab does not necessarily mean every child has an access to lab, because one lab table will have 6 children, only one of them is usually working, the others are looking other way. Teachers are not ready to bring futuristic aspect of education. I've been training a lot of teachers from all segments. Even in a place like Delhi, if I were to ask, recently I did a survey with 250 principals. This was in Hyderabad. I asked them, how many of you know ChatGPT? And 12 hands out of 250 went up. How many of you use ChatGPT? 4 went up. How many of you know anything other than ChatGPT, which is an adaptive learning AI-based platform? 0. And this is repeated across Delhi, Hyderabad, and so on, everywhere. Now, if ChatGPT is going to change 30 crore jobs in the next 3 years, I think our teachers need to be very well aware of it. So how do we make teachers future ready? And even if they're not, how do I make the students future ready? How can I create a system of that sort? Mobile phones are almost ubiquitous. They are found in, especially during the COVID time, one of the silver lining was that people got to learn how to use a smartphone, and they have a smartphone. Children may not have a smartphone, but their parents have a smartphone. So at some point in the day, they can get access to it. And the solutions need to be low cost and language independent. So with that premise and opportunity, we've been working on this special thing, which I call the 1 rupee challenge. And the 1 rupee challenge is that we've set up a special laboratory within Kalam Center, which is called Homi Lab. Go one step up, right? And Homi Lab basically works on creating solutions for children where we could provide the following. So we wanted to bring every curricular lab, which includes physics, chemistry, biology mostly, all labs for every school, in every child in every school, in every language, across any class, should get access to all kinds of lab, from physics, especially the science labs, and even if there's no internet, it should work. It should work on a feature plus phone, it should work on a smartphone, and it could work upwards as well. Plus, we wanted to bring in the futuristic aspect. I'll show you what we're doing there. Future labs, 25 future labs of things which will transform the future, like nanotechnology, quantum computing, biogenetics, like living in space, living on Mars, going to a black hole, and so on, which are very exciting for children. And from that, if you teach theory, it is far more exciting. So we'll show you that as well. And then creating a module around it, these future subjects, so that it can also work independent of a teacher in any language. And all of this has to be availed in 1 rupee a day. So that is the challenge, which we embarked upon, and we are about at 1.3 rupees right now, and with some scaling down, we'll come down to 1 rupee. I'll now show you the videos of it. So I think my bulk of I wanted to actually show you how it is going to look like, rather than just to tell you. So I'm going to first, can you play the video number 1? This is an augmented reality solution. This is what I was telling you. This works on your mobile phone. It can work on any tabletop. I can bring alive a lab, any lab which you want. So a heart, this is a biology lab. Before that, you saw a chemistry lab. And we have video recorded a mobile screen essentially. And this is a space lab. So build a space station. Why not do that? So everything on a flat 1 by 1 feet surface, we can bring out any lab. This is the space station. This is a solar system. You can interact with the planets. You can find about it. You can see how the gravity works, how they're spinning and so on. You can stop them, and you can do a lot of interaction around it. So since the time is limited, so I can't show you much of it because I have to cover other things. Can you go to video number 2? Video number 2 is this is the, pause, just a second, pause. Hit pause, yeah. Okay, not pause. Not pausing, okay. Okay, it's not pausing. So this is the world's first simulator for Martian landing. So I told you we build future content. This is one of the future contents. This is imagine 2056 where humans have landed on Mars. How would they live? What will it take? How will you drink water? How will you switch on a generator like you did right now? How will you, put atmospheric pressure back? How would you purify the carbon dioxide into oxygen? Mars is very rich in carbon dioxide. This is a Martian rover built around something which, this is like an ice block, you have to pick it. So it's like it looks like a game, but essentially it's an education tool. And we want to bring these tools. So we have such simulators for all kinds of future things. One simulator is about 5-6 hours of simulation time or a play time. Right, can you go to the video number 3? This is from a virtual reality platform. This is the world's cheapest virtual reality platform which we have developed. And this can, we need VR glasses. That is an expensive bit, but the software part of it is what we're working on. This is a simulator of a nuclear plant. So if you want to teach a child how a nuclear plant operates, this is a way in which they can do, and this works on a headset. The hands you can move like you would use your own hands. So this is one of the examples. This is a fusion power generator, not necessarily a fission nuclear, but a fusion nuclear side. Now, this can be used to also develop skills. Since we have the skills secretary here, this can also be used to teach usual skills. You can teach how to operate an oil rig. And because the engine is same now, so the engine builds things very rapidly and at a very low cost. The last thing is my personal favorite. And a lot of people told me, you were very lucky to have been taught by Dr. Kalam. He was my teacher in 2008. So we said, why not go a step further? Play video number 4, right? So we started bringing live characters. So these are all interactive characters in multiple such well-known personalities from Einstein to Newton. Anyone can be brought alive. And we are building an entire AI database of how children or people who feel young at heart and wanted to be taught by Dr. Kalam can be taught by them. So you can interact, ask questions, he'll teach you things. And the final thing I want to leave you is a message from an artificial intelligence system. Can you play the last one? You have to make the volume slightly louder.
From all over India, I'm happy to meet you at this education conclave.
This education conclave.
8 years have passed since I left the physical world. But even today, I am always thinking of my nation and its people. I'm artificial intelligence version of Kalam. When I see so many bright minds, policymakers and academicians assembled here, I'm reminded of one very important line from my book, Advantage. It is knowledge and education empowers a nation. So my dear friends, my fellow countrymen, I greet you all and wish you.
Right. So that's the voice, right? It was AI. He didn't give the message. And the engines which we have now built together, we can make such things come alive. So imagine, the Kalam which you saw and the voice all comes alive, and it's all going to be available at a cost which is less than ₹1 a day for a child. So that, I think, is my submission, that technology, most of our impression is that technology is expensive, but it's not if you do it indigenously. We've done it. Everything which you saw is built by Indian engineers, Indian scientists, Indian teachers. We have absolutely nothing which we have got from outside. I think this country's, the previous generation of education has created a system where we have the acumen and the ability to create something like this. So onward, and I think I wish we are able to imbibe more and more technology into the process of NEP and developing a new India, the Naya Bharat. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Srijan, for bringing AI into this room out here. And now may I ask Mr. Karthike, who's from Bihar, and will give their perspective.
Namaskar, Saurav sir, Professor Kattimani, Srijan Pal Singh ji, Madam Cynthia, and all respected guests. Today I am going to discuss a few things about school education that we are doing in Bihar, very much relevant to the topic that is being discussed here. This is an overview of general features, information like 38 districts. 13 districts are aspirational, 22 are left-wing extremism affected districts. There are 93,000 schools, government and private included. 2 crore 70 lakh total enrollment and around 6 lakh total teachers in Bihar. I will cover a few things like gender issue, socio-cultural aspects, geographical access reach, disability concerns, and the other migrants and other issues. First, whenever we discuss about school, say government schools, now and then we come across the videos in which some fun is being made about teachers, quality of teachers, quality education in government schools. So what we are planning is training of a teacher, which is a very important part of the quality education process. We have around 5 lakh teachers in government schools, and we are going to recruit more teachers through Public Service Commission, which will ensure the quality of teacher is good. As well as this year we are planning for training of all the teachers. Training of teacher requires some resources, say institutional resources, trainers, the other resources also. So this year we have mobilized various private resources as well as the non-governmental NGOs to develop robust system to ensure training of each and every teacher at least once in a year. And this will have a good impact on the quality of teacher and subsequently on the quality of education. The second point about teachers' absenteeism. So we have developed some technological tools, and there is physical inspection, in-person inspection of around 20,000 schools per day that we are ensuring. Based on the absenteeism of teachers, we are taking disciplinary actions as required. This second issue is about girls' education. There are various schemes and policies which are aimed to promote girls' education, women empowerment in general. And the interventions that we are undertaking includes both structural as well as financial and all. So we are paying a lot of money for the girl students promotion of education. So 10,000 rupees is paid for secondary examination passing, 25,000 for higher secondary, 50,000 for graduation, and we have various budget. Every year we are paying this much money. And there is a cycle scheme which is very popular, and we have around 634 KGBVs. These KGBVs enrolls about 70,000 girls ranging from class 6 to class 12. Now, one of the very important impact that I am sharing here is, in last 5 years, because of various interventions, the number of girl students passing class 12 has grown from 2 lakh to 5.4 lakh girls in last 6 years. And this is because of various such interventions. Dropouts, the another major issue. When we study the data of students who belong to different sections of the society, we find that in government schools, more than 75% of the students belong to SCs, STs, OBCs, or the marginalized sections of the society. Whenever we are talking about school education, it is basically about these socio-economically disadvantaged group of the society. So to contain school dropouts, various interventions have been taken. One of the very important is Chahak. Chahak is a school readiness program, Vidya Pravesh, what we saw in the video also today in the morning. So Chahak is a program that has been developed in Bihar, and we are running it for last 3 years. And it is basically a school readiness program. I will show you the video also afterwards. There is a special training for these teachers who are conducting Chahak program. There is a Praveshotsav program every year. We have established the Aadhaar centers in schools. There is a free uniform, free textbook for all students. We have 100% student in class 1. GER, if we say, in Bihar, we have a GER of 93%. But for class 1 to class 6, it's around 100%, 98 to 103% type. So it's around 100%. And total 2.13 crore students are enrolled in government schools. Next. Again, the summer camp. The one Professor Katimani also discussed about bridge course and all, how to ensure that the student is not dropped out because of language barrier or ability barriers. For them, we conduct summer camps. This year, we conducted summer camp in the month of June, where 1 lakh volunteers participated, and it benefited to around 12 lakh students for their skills of language and maths. We have residential schools like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, where we provide all the facilities from class 1 to class 12. And at present, we have 15 such schools in which there are around 1,500 students engaged. Now this is Chahak.
विद्यालय से जुड़ा खेल आधारित गतिविधियों का संकलन है। इसका निर्माण बच्चों के विद्यालय के शुरुआती 3 महीनों में बुनियादी साक्षरता एवं संख्या ज्ञान को रुचिकर बनाने हेतु किया गया है।
एक बड़े राजा की बेटी 2 दिन से बीमार पड़ी।
कौवा करता
ये कौन सा पत्ता है, किस रंग का? पीला।
टमाटर गोल, आलू गोल, रोटी गोल।
Now this is about summer camp that just I said out, is like in which we conducted with the help of NGOs and many stakeholders like Diet students, skill development mission volunteers, Jivika. We have a self-help group mission, Jivika. Then Siksha Sevaks, Nehru Yuva Kendra, NCC, and many other partners. Now this is about participation of community in school education. To ensure that the parents of students are involved in the process of schools, we are conducting a parent-teacher meeting, and we have declared the annual calendar for different class, and as per the dates, the PTM is being organized, and in which the teachers as well as parents interact, and they have a mutual suggestions for better management of education and management of schools. Various IVRS calls were made, video messages from political leaders and the senior officials were broadcast on the radio, TV, social media, and it was publicized.
30 अक्टूबर 2022 को बिहार में बुनियादी साक्षरता एवं संख्या ज्ञान के लक्ष्यों को प्राप्त करने एवं बच्चों की पढ़ाई में माता पिता की भागीदारी को बढ़ावा देने के लिए राज्य के लगभग 69,243 सरकारी विद्यालयों में अभिभावक शिक्षक संगोष्ठी के आयोजन की एक अनूठी पहल की गई। कार्यक्रम के दिन लगभग 14 लाख अभिभावकों ने हिस्सा लिया। इस संगोष्ठी के सफल आयोजन के लिए राज्य द्वारा विभिन्न प्रयास किए गए, अखबारों में विज्ञापन दिए गए तथा ऑल इंडिया रेडियो पर इस संगोष्ठी के संदेश को प्रसारित किया गया।
मम्मी और पापा 20 अक्टूबर गुरुवार को मेरे विद्यालय में जरूर आना।
इस तरह से अभिभावक शिक्षक संगोष्ठी का सफल आयोजन पूरे राज्य में हुआ और भविष्य में इस तरह का आयोजन निरंतर रूप से होता रहेगा।
रखना, निपुण बनेगा बिहार अपना।
One of the very important is children with special needs. The disabilities of various types hampers education of a child. So there was a special drive undertaken to identify such students in on a pilot basis, particular in a first phase in one district and then in the entire state. Special drive for certification of such student was undertaken. There are various problems, in conducting such camps. Lack of doctors, qualified doctors. If we want to certify disability of particular kind, we need expert of that field. But lack of such doctor makes it difficult to make the benefit available to the student. So various ways were devised to find out such student and appropriate doctors, and the camps were organized. And then around 2 lakh total such students were identified. 37,000 were given the certificate, and special drive was undertaken for identifying blind boys and blind girls, so that they can be educated for a particular bridge course. They are given residential facility, and they are given a special teacher in a school, in KGBVs also. So there are around 535 visually challenged girls in KGBV studying right now, and around 2,000 girls with hearing impairment. And we are having great help with we are getting great help from various NGOs, UNICEF, and other partners also. We are helping in UDID card enrollment also. Now, career perspective issue. Now, online portals for career guidance has been developed. Offline career cards have also been developed with the help of UNICEF. We are conducting various other programs. I will share one story. There is this self-esteem based life skill program, which Professor Katamani also mentioned in his lecture. In one of the KGBV, we are engaging various NGOs and other such experts for conducting life skill based programs. So the program was focused on identifying your unique strength. So there was one girl, aged around 14, and her name was Nirasha. She was third child of a parent, and they wanted son. So when she was born, their parents named her Nirasha. So everybody used to make fun of her. So she used to stay very depressed in a school also. So when this program was held, so when everybody identified that this girl needs special attention, that there is something wrong, then she expressed that because of this thing, I am feeling very depressed. So then they helped her, that you identify what is your strength. And then she zeroed in that she is very curious about things. So she said, I am very jigyasu. So then she said, I want to rename myself as Jigyasa. So then the teacher and the local authorities, they helped her, and they changed her name from Nirasha to Jigyasa. And that changed her entire approach towards, school, life, and everything. And then she was very happy, staying very happy also. So these programs help a lot. In a way, this is a simple story that I have told you. There are many such stories. When we interact with such girls, the girls from very poor background, the girls first from the entire panchayat to study 10th, first from their entire community to study 12th. So even today we find such examples, how they are helping their fathers and mothers in their business because of these programs. Other activities, other extracurricular activities that we conduct, basically Tarang Mega Utsav and Tarang Khel Utsav. So these two initiatives are undertaken for all the government school students for their talent search and all. These are some of the pics. Thank you.
Thank you, Karthike, for this interesting what you have done in Bihar. And now we have Cynthia McCaffrey from UNICEF, and certainly not maybe the last but not the least, definitely, for her international experience.
Thank you, sir. And it is a lot intimidating to be following all of the speakers from this august panel. So I'll be brief because give you all a chance to ask questions or give comments. And I'd like to begin with also a story. I'm newer to India. I was saying to the chair of our panel that I've been here a little over 9 months. He said, that's not so new. But for the rest of you, it's pretty new. And one of the things that I've had the opportunity to do, UNICEF has been working in India for over 70 years, and we work in offices across 14 states. And one of the things I've seen is visiting a number of schools, both at the early learning, primary, and upper primary, even going into secondary school. And in different states, with incredible diversity, a number and most of them working in the most marginalized communities, because UNICEF and India work hand in hand, identifying where could we leverage each other's power together, each other's experience and knowledge. So it's often in more tribal areas, more socioeconomic, diverse or disadvantaged areas. And across every single visit, and I visited probably 20 schools, 25 schools, there's one common thing that I see. I see mothers and fathers bringing their daughters to school and saying, I want my daughter to have an education. I don't have an education, but I want her to have an education. I've seen adolescent girls, again, alongside local leaders in the villages, saying these girls need to stay in school. Transportation is starting to become a challenge. There are government schemes we're looking into. But the theme and the message is we want these girls to stay in school past class 9 when it becomes a bit of a transition. And so one of the common threads is this incredible investment and interest in educating their children, their communities, their young people. One of the things that I felt coming here with that incredible opening with the Honorable Prime Minister is seeing the incredible importance of the National Education Policy 2020. So the patchwork of that working in villages at the block level, district level, but it's guided by this National Education Policy 2020 that gives a common theme and gives common denominators for the things that India wants to achieve. So I start with that story of what I've seen and the impression I've had, and then commend the government and the Ministry of Education on the National Education Policy and what you've accomplished in 3 short years. And additionally, really commend the teachers, the administrators, the principals, the local leaders, also the parents and the students themselves who are understanding the issues of the National Education Policy and grabbing hold of it. The second point in commending that progress is noting in particular the visionary elements of it, but the comprehensive approach to the National Education Policy. And that's why I think it's working. is because it is comprehensive and it's looking how to grab every part of a child and make sure that the whole child learns and that it embraces the whole community. It embraces families' involvement in education. The third important point I wanted to make and really to emphasize is the inclusivity and the importance of that in having an impact. And we've talked and will continue to talk a lot about inclusivity, but the impact that that's having. So today in India, 95% of children between the ages of 6 and 10 are in school. I think the wonderful thing about India is that they want to continue to expand that. But that's an impressive accomplishment, that they are in school. And that's an impact. And that shows India's investment in its children, but also in making sure that every child has a right to education. It's not just a good idea. It's not just something that we hear we should do, but India is respecting the right of every child to have access to an education. That impact is extremely important. And UNICEF is very proud to have been sitting alongside the Ministry of Education, talking about helping to think through what the education policy should look like and how to roll it out across states. And we're proud of that because we're able to bring our lessons that we've learned over 70 years in India, but also lessons that we see globally. But UNICEF is taking the lessons that we're seeing in India and applying that and offering it to other countries. So the progress that India is making and the success of the National Education Policy 2020 is something that we're learning together with the government of India nationally, but across states, and taking that to other countries. The G20 and Education 20 has given an incredible platform to do that in an accelerated way. I think one of the final points that I wanted to make before we get to questions and answers is looking at this inclusivity and the responsiveness of the policy. Policies are absolutely wonderful. They give that broad national guidance. But being able to be responsive to different situations, different contexts, different needs of children, and enabling that to be how you implement it. You can't implement a policy the same exact way in every single state, district, block, or school. As we were noting, the monkey, the fish, every child is different. And so the responsiveness of this and being clear about how you want to have impact on a life. And that's one of the valuable things that I think I've been able to see from UNICEF is the policy discussion with the Ministry of Education and then seeing it in action and seeing that it has a genuine impact on children and their lives. For example, when we're talking about disadvantaged, children living with disabilities, those who have special needs, special ways to learn, that is something that the way the policy is being implemented is having a difference. In a state, for example, like UP, schools that we're working with are looking at how to develop activities for daily living for children who have significant and a number of disabilities, and scale that up and then have a bridge and a transition so that child is not just learning at home, but is able to then transition to learning in school. A second example is having teachers and local leaders and principals trained in how to do accessibility audits for schools. And so in Angawadi centers as well as schools, UNICEF has worked with local authorities on how to look at the buildings, how to look at the centers and the schools, and then determine how to make sure that that school, that center at the youngest age is accessible for every child. Those are impacts. Those are children, a children's face who's able to smile, learning and going to school. The second example that I want to give, because it's one that cuts across everything, is gender and how that is such an important focus. And I think it comes to light as we talk about making sure girls stay in school when they get to a certain age. And India has achieved that. Girls are in school. Girls in many ways are excelling and exceeding boys in school, but continuing to have attention to that gender aspect and making sure we include boys as well as girls in that gender discussion. But in a state like Maharashtra, UNICEF has worked with the government to look at innovative ways to try to discuss gender with teachers, with administrators, through films, talked about gender and biases that teachers or administrators or parents may have with their children. And the impact has been that they've been able to scale up and to talk about gender in a very visceral way, in a very impactful way, and start to see how girls feel different in a classroom, feel different at home, because that bias, that discussion has happened through different media, talking, films, and those types of things. And then I would end just with the incredible opportunity around digital, to pick up on Mr. Singh's point about digital being something that is transformational for children who are hard to reach, hard to see, but in particular also using digital and that access for girls, and using that as a way to continue to keep girls in school, keep them learning, help them get to that STEM opportunity. With that, I would just end and say, again, around the national education policy is one of the things that I've seen and felt is where we began with the chairman, which is finding a way that really empowers us to make sure that every child has an opportunity to not just learn, but learn well with quality and then be able to contribute to society. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a very attentive audience, so what we'll do is we'll take 2 or 3 questions and then try and group them together if that's okay. So the house is open, the floor is open. We'll just take and then we'll come back out here. Yeah. So if you can just introduce yourself and if you have a...
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and the learned panelist, Professor Katamani. So myself, Professor Lokendra Singh, the Vice Chancellor, Manipur University. We have listened to very beautiful and very illuminating presentation from all the panelists. But I would just like to point out one crucial issue, which is actually an important bearing in the contemporary complex process of socio-economic change in the country. Last 70 years of affirmative policies by the government of India has brought about tremendous socio-economic transformation among many of the ethnic and the tribal communities, particularly in the 7-8 states of Northeast India. All these, communities in Northeast India, they have been doing tremendously well in various fields, be it in the field of, bureaucracy, or be it in the field of, business, or be it in the field of, politics. But the point is that as long as the students were in the university and the other educational institutions, there had been very little evidences of all these students showing their consciousness about having, come up from a particular, ethnic community or a tribal community. But the moment they go out from the universities or the educational institutions, the moment they go back to their, community or their clan or their tribe or their, ethnic group, in spite of so much of educational acquirements and exposures that all these students used to have, they tend to be influenced by their primordial consciousness of having come out from this group, from this tribe, from that ethnic communities, and so on and so forth. And this kind of not forgetting the, marginalization of the past days and the past life used to create off and on tremendous amount of tensions in the society in many of the states. So what I was just suggesting is that just like, say, some compulsory papers are there at the undergraduate level. For example, say, UGC used to, say, prepare a compulsory paper on environmental consciousness and environmental, say, science. Similarly, if the University Grants Commission can take up, preparation of, say, course material for introductions in the undergraduate and even in a master's program, so that people should learn how to forget their past, say, marginalization, and how to come out of their primordial consciousness of having come out from this group or that group, say, from that caste, from that tribe, and so on and so forth. I think unless and until we go about in this kind of a path, there is a possibility of, say, various kinds of social tensions and social, say, conflicts, say, coming up in many places, at least in Northeast India. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chancellor. I think it's an excellent suggestion. We'll take 2 or 3 questions, one there, and then we had one out here, and then the lady, and then out here, and then, yeah.
थैंक यू सर. सर मेरा नाम निपुण विनायक है. मैं महाराष्ट्र स्टेट फैकल्टी डेवलपमेंट एकेडमी में काम करता हूँ. हमारी एकेडमी महाराष्ट्र के कॉलेजेस और यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के टीचर्स का कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग का काम करती है. और इस सेशन में हम इसलिए आए हैं क्योंकि इंक्लूजन और डाइवर्सिटी को हम लोग नॉन नेगोशिएबल वैल्यू करके चलते हैं. हम लोग सर इससे जुड़े हुए जो भी टाइप्स ऑफ इश्यूज़ हैं, ट्राइबल्स हो या टेक्नोलॉजी हो या जेंडर हो या PWD हो, उसको लेके वी डू डिफरेंट प्रोग्राम्स. तो जो सवाल अभी हमें समझ में आ रहे हैं एड्रेस होने चाहिए एजुकेशन को लेके, आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू रेज सम ऑफ दोज इश्यूज़. सबसे पहला इशू तो एक्सेप्टेंस का है कि these biases do exist, and I don't know if I'd be wrong if I say that these biases get cultivated in schools and colleges as also in our homes, because a child probably is not born with all these divisions in mind. लेकिन एक एजुकेशन एक्सपर्ट सीनियर से बात हो रही थी, उन्हें बताया कि हम इंक्लूजन डाइवर्सिटी में काम करते हैं, तो उन्हें कहा यार वो सब इशू तो छोड़ो, ये उन लोगों को कुछ समझ में नहीं आने वाला. So the biases run so deeply even in this sector that probably we need to start with where we stand, accept that there are these issues and then take it on. दूसरा इशू जो शायद इससे पहले VC साहब ने रेज़ किया कि 2 तरीके हैं, या तो हम कुछ आइडेंटिटीज़ को सोशो इकोनॉमिक डिसएडवांटेज ग्रुप्स बोल के उनके राइट्स की तरफ स्ट्रक्चरल चेंजेस लाएं, उसके लिए जिसको पॉजिटिव एफर्मेटिव एक्शन कहा जाता है वो करें, या फिर हम इसकी बैकग्राउंड में जाएं दैट व्हाई इज़ आइडेंटिटी बिकमिंग सो इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर एनीबडी. तो इसके पीछे क्या फियर या साइकोलॉजिकल रीजंस हैं, व्हाई डू आई वांट टू बिलोंग टू अ पर्टिकुलर ग्रुप, लेट अस से, एंड इज़ इट पॉसिबल that unless we challenge all identities, these issues will even get addressed. क्योंकि ये तो नए नए groups which can be called disadvantaged will keep on rising. So does the answer lie in each one shedding all one's identities? That's the second thing. I think my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, there seem to be a lot of questions. Sir, if the lady, and then after that are you. Can we just go with that sequence? Thank you. And my request to all the questioners, if they can just keep their questions so short, because there are a lot of interesting ideas coming up.
Sure.
Would like to, as far as possible, give
Okay,
everyone
good
a
afternoon
chance.
to the entire galaxy of intellectuals. This is Raina Jain from Alcon International School. Sir, because I am working probably directly with the students as well as with the parents, I sometimes find, as sir rightly mentioned, ki acceptance. And acceptance that too at the level of parents as well. Let's say as teachers being motivated, being told all the time, or we identify a particular child, then what? When we call the parents, parents are not ready to accept that. So aren't we should have some kind of an awareness program, even for those parents, even for the entire thing, that awareness program among the students also, because these students are generally bullied. So the awareness program for these students also. And the second thing that I would like to mention over here is about the technology. During online classes, even in the private schools, we found students from EWS category, those who did not have the gadgets with them. We teachers at times contributed and gave them the gadgets also at Alcon. But can we have some kind of, let's say, interactive, maybe like we used to have some kind of cyber cafes or something which are free of cost, or which are at very marginal cost, run by the government or run by some of the communities over there, that can actually provide them the access of the gadgets and all those things.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Out here. We'll have the gentleman here. Excuse me. We'll have the gentleman here, and then.
I'm Professor Gulrez, Vice Chancellor, Aligarh Muslim University. Well, it's a very interesting topic, and we had a very lively discussions. As far as equity and inclusiveness, what I was wondering that, the literacy rate of this country is 74%. But we do not have, till today, the qualitative data available, as to how much, men and women, male and female, and how much, what is the ratio between rural and urban. I think unless until we address to this, it would be very difficult, there's no qualitative data available on this. Second is that, the NEP says that by 2030, we are going to attain 100% literacy. But we do not have any data so far, because I was, just scanning something about the population, wholly illiterate, semi-literate, late school dropouts, and so on. I think, we need to work on these things. Unless until we take is a total umbrella type of a thing. So I think, third point is that, 26.5 crores, is a, literate people, including school going and higher education. And similarly is the population of illiterate in this country. But, the budget allocation is still 2.6%. We have been talking so many, innovation and, good ideas. I will just, narrate one thing. We in our university have an example, and experience that during the COVID, we could find that there is a digital, because of digital, literacy and divide. Very good students, because they were not having access of gadgets, the tablets and mobile phones. Their performance was rated very bad as compared to those who were having those accesses, So I think we also need to work on these things. No. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll have the gentleman out here. And yes, that lady, maybe the last one out there, if there's, that's it. Okay, two more. Okay, yeah.
Honorable Chairman and distinguished panel. My name is Ram Kamal. I am the Senior Advisor for Inclusive Education for Samagra Shiksha, Andhra Pradesh. I just want to give you some happy news, because we were hearing about the new plans. Andhra Pradesh is going to be completely digitally inclusive educated by Vision 2025. We have developed a platform for transforming the whole education in a born accessible way with a single digital pedagogy. What Mr. Srijan was talking about, we have already, 2 days back, we had a digital festival there. Children with special needs were showcasing STEM and robotics and programming and all those programs. So we should not limit our thoughts that they can't, they can. So we have a single pedagogy, so I just want to give that good news to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I am conscious of the fact that the line between hunger and anger is very thin. So we'll just have 1 and 2, and then maybe a minute to all of us to. The lady out there, yes. Sorry, I saw a number of other hands, but yeah.
Good afternoon, sirs and madams. I'm Asha Chaudhary, coming from Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan. Sir, I have a question. On one hand, we are talking about inclusive education, we are talking about equitability, but is it possible to really gain it? Because after so many years of independence also, we are talking about these issues. Because somewhere these things are confined only to the policies. They are not worked on the ground level. Still, we are nurtured with this kind of barriers, and we are not able to come out from that. Many a time, the title which we are carrying with our first name, that decide whether we will be getting some advantage or disadvantages. So, sir, I think something we need to do on the very ground level. We have to change the very perspective, the very thought process of the people. That's what I wanted to admit here. Thank you so much.
Thank
sir.
you, thank you. Maybe a
I am Ashok Ganguly. I was Deputy Director at IIT Delhi. I was also Founder Director of Institute of Nanotechnology, the first institute in India. And currently I'm Director of IISER Berhampur. So I have two things to say. How many of us can do many things. When I was Director in Mohali, I started an outreach program with very little money, starting from my personal money. And it was noticed by the government. I visited, and many of my scientists, to probably all the states of the country. The point was to show to the last school in the border, in Firozpur or in Sikkim, that what kind of teaching in an IIT can be done. Once showcased, or in a national institute of importance, that spark can go to the last student in an open field. We have given lectures, and it's not a lecture, it's actually an interaction. I think this, has been transformed now to scientific social responsibility, and this needs to really percolate everywhere. So people in the very high education institutions should make a connect to the rural and very marginalized students so that they can see them, and also, if possible, these institutions can bring them. We had a program of bringing ST and SC students to our institutions and show them around. So that kind of thing can and should be done by most institutions. The other point I wanted to say, this is one thing, that to connect to the best, to the last school, so to attract or create a spark. The second is, for all teachers, it's their duty to find if there is a spark in the class, to identify that. We have been able to do it, and you won't believe the satisfaction you get when you know a landless labor child is today doing a PhD in an IIT or an IISER or something like that. And it can be done. There are sparks everywhere, and I find the role of the teacher is great, because it is he or she who finds that student, and the money is not really tremendous. It's the spark in the class which has to be identified and then talked about with people in the neighborhood, maybe an institution, that can you handhold. And then we did that and bought her a cycle, bought her a laptop, and she grew. Now, if this can be done at a larger scale, this is at a small scale. Every school does that. Find a spark and connects to some people. This will be a revolution. So these are my 2 points which I wanted.
Thank you, thank you. I know there are a lot of questions, but I'll just request the panelists. There have been a lot of issues, suggestions raised. Maybe just a minute to each person if they want to pick up any one of the comments or they have some concluding thoughts. Maybe I'll start with you, Karthikeya. Cynthia?
I'll just do 2 closing thoughts. One is, I'm very compelled by, have we made enough progress, and we need to do more. And I think one thing to do is to look at the good news. The access to education has increased. The access to education for girls has increased. So how do we build on that? The second is, I think, picking up on the point that it does take everyone. And one of the things that UNICEF has seen here is having the leadership of the government at the same time making sure that you bring in the private sector, civil society. So one school in particular that I visited recently did not have water, sanitation, and it partnered with the private sector. So it was local government money, it was private sector money, it was UNICEF guidance. And that was a coming together. In putting water and toilets in that school, that primary school's attendance tripled 3 times. It tripled. So parents said, oh, now it's a safe place to go. It's a place where we can learn. So I think a challenge also is really looking at how do we bring in all partners to help address the issues that bring and keep kids in school.
Thank you. Professor Katamani.
Hello. Yes, Professor Lokendra Singh, raised a very important question. Yes, NEP talks about this, morality, nationality, and neighborhood, our own skills, living together, extension of our own strengths, and live with others. These ethics of Indian society should come into educational domains, especially textbooks, classroom discussion, as well as training of teachers in the domain. That's NEP is talking about. Professor Ashok Ganguly is a very interesting director. I know him since beginning. Yes, Professor, this is how our Gurukuls were talking about since beginning. The teacher should be able to identify the strength and weakness of the children. If the girl is weak, she should be taken care of. If the particular boy is very good in archery, the education of archery should be given to him, not Gada. Thank you.
Srijan, what do you?
So just wanted to again stick to the theme which I was talking about, which was technology. And I want to bring in Ashok Gangulyji's point and also the lady who talked about it, sir. And I want to again, there's something which we're doing, which is called, incidentally, Jigyasa. It is the world's largest quiz dedicated to Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and it is coming to the last stage. On 12th of August, we'll finish it. The prize money is 58 lakh rupees of checks will be given to children across India. So one of the challenges which we faced that how do you run a quiz, and 10 lakh quizzes were taken across India, 687 districts participated. And the challenge was, how do I put somebody from Delhi at a pedestal which is equal to somebody from Barabanki, a rural kid. So and language is an issue, context is an issue. So we designed this entire AI product which could take the geolocation of the child, and based on whether it's rural, urban, language, and so on, a Delhi child can be asked, what is India Gate dedicated to? A Barabanki child can be asked, what is this flower? And AI can make them equal. Otherwise, what somebody was telling about, sometimes education is tilted because the questions are tilted, the curriculum is tilted towards a segment of people. And so what is very exciting to note is that now only 20 people are left, and each one of them will at least get a 1 lakh rupee prize. The highest will get 20 lakhs. Last 20 candidates are remaining. On 12th of August is the finale. Out of those 20 candidates, 2 are from Chennai. 1 is from Bombay Suburban. Every other child is from a small district. There's Angul, there are places not Zorahat in Assam, there's somebody from Kokrajhar, there's somebody from Barmer, somebody from Raebareli. There's a temple priest girl from Jhansi. There is a farmer's son from somewhere in UP, I'm forgetting where. But these are all rural kids. The moment you use technology to make an even playing ground for everyone, you can make magic happen. And that's the dignity part, that's the acceptance part. That's what saying that India's brain also resides is in rural areas. And somebody said India has not made progress. I disagree with you. We just launched Chandrayaan 3. Most of the team belongs to small districts. They've all come from those small schools, not the big ones. So I think India has made tremendous progress. There's a long way to go ahead, but there's a lot of grassroots progress which has happened. We must acknowledge that.
Thank you. Okay. I won't attempt to make any concluding remarks. It's been a very rich discussion, the kind of presentation, but just 2 thoughts I will leave, perhaps, taking off from where Srijan mentioned that we should not try and maximize the averages. One is, I think, in order to do that, and what has also come up, what Dr. Ganguly said, what the Vice Chancellor from Manipur said, what Dr. Gulre said, is the ability at the school level to have flexibility to be able to make changes or do something more than what the basic curriculum has. So I don't know, that NEP also talks about that. So maybe whether it's a 2/3, 1/3, 3/4, 1/4, the 3/4 the curriculum is uniform, but that 1/4 is context specific, school specific, student specific. I don't know how it will happen. But associated with this would be what Vice Chancellor, whom I was sitting with in the inaugural session, mentioned, that capacity building of the teachers. I think number one, that is an area we'll have to give a lot more emphasis on if we want to have the kind of flexibilities and to be able to handle a lot of the issues which come up at each level that we would need to do. So I would stop here. I would just request the organizers if they have anything, any housekeeping announcement or anything else to say. But thank you all. Thank you for being attentive. I think there would be a summary prepared based on what all of us said, and then let's see how we take it forward from there.
Thank you all the panelists and speakers. A big, huge clap for them, please. And there is a few announcements. There is after this session, you can go for lunch. Lunch is arranged here in L1 on the same floor. And after that, you can go to Hall 14 to see exhibitions. And particularly in Hall 14, you will find interactive platform. There there are a lot of interesting things you will find there. So I will recommend everybody to go there and see how it works. And after that, the next technical sessions will start from 2:30 onwards. 3. So you can, after that, you can also participate there and get your knowledge updated on these issues. Thank you. Okay, thanks.